I talk a lot about the artist, athlete, entrepreneur model of obsession. And the artist is at the top for a reason because obsession has to start with art. And truthfully, at the pinnacle of the pinnacle is the artist always. It's always the artist because this is something I learned from Casey Neistat. It is the artist is the most scarce. The artist is the true one of one to the extreme that cannot be replicated. And so art has to bleed through the athletics and the businesses you start. There has to be a reason you're going out there and running 26.2 miles. You don't just do that for fun. You do that because there is some maze you're playing in your head. And at the core of that maze, the steps you take, I view that as art. When I'm out there running, I just ran a 12-mile run. It was easy. But there are decades of moments and stories that led me to every step I'm taking. There is a purity to it. And that's why they call the best athletes artists, because they're so unique in their style and their format and their technique, especially with fighters. You always hear that all the time. That dude's an artist. You cannot argue that the best athletes in the world are pure artists. You can't. They are, because they invent something new and the whole world watches and they inspire others to take action. That is what I think real art is. And it's also, like I said, it's the start. That's why, I'm going in order. I think they should go in order. Artist, athlete, entrepreneur. I'm very early in the stage of starting my businesses that I'm going to own for decades. They have to go in order because otherwise you get in the wrong thing without the right art. And that means you are spinning your wheels. That means you have a job. That means you're not following your passion. You're not following your obsession, which is the goal. This is the part that can't be taught. And I just think it's really interesting because I tweeted the other day, I'll share the tweet up here, how the best entrepreneurs and artists are just living inside their work. They've figured out a way to wrap their whole world around art. And it's not like they're really doing anything. They're just living their life in the purest form of motion. Their emotion just has to be this form of art that they give to others. The best example of this, I think, someone who really inspires me is George Heaton. He built his whole life around the world of Represent. It's the things he loves doing. Loves working out. Loves beautiful design. Loves going to beautiful places. That's the world of Represent. And by wearing Represent and ordering it, you get to enter that world with him. You get to feel a fragment of what that's like and get 1% closer to that every time you buy it. That's how I view it. Ralph Lauren, I think, was the first one to do this. There's a really good documentary. It's called Very Ralph on HBO. And it basically is him world building and just using Ralph Lauren. He was this poor kid. He was pitching Bloomingdale's to sell his ties. That's how he started. And they didn't want to. He was this poor kid who just dreamed of these fantasies and used Ralph Lauren campaigns as a vehicle to create these fantasies. Riding on horseback in countries with family, wearing knit sweaters. This was just fantasies to him. And so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get to a state where all I'm doing is making art and nothing else. And I'm getting there slowly. I think it will take years for me to truly get there. But lately, there are days where it feels like that. The only problem is it's kind of fake because I don't have the ultra financial piece. I'm not financially free yet. And so it's I think I'm close to that point in my life, but I'm not there yet. And so that piece still is in my brain. But soon, what happens is you get to the point where the art fuels the money vehicle and the money vehicle fuels the art. And that is when your compounding just becomes fucking unstoppable. And you see this over and over and over again. And it's what I'm doing right now on a tiny scale. Last year, I basically spent all my money to make content, to make those animated videos. And I spent all the money I had to make those animated videos and pump out one a day, basically, for a few months. And it completely changed my life. It took my writing to millions of more eyeballs. And that got me the opportunities I have now. It might be the only reason you're listening to this. And so it's I believe in burning everything for the dream that you believe in and that only you can see. This is why I'll probably never sell a course on content. I would sell a course on I would sell marathon plans. I probably will do that soon. But I would never sell a course on content or solopreneurship, or which I'm definitely not a solopreneur. I would never make a course on that stuff because it's retarded. Excuse my language. My path was so hard. I wouldn't want to teach someone how to do that. I was okay with having no money for years and not having weekends for years, working weekends for my event business. That is something that you can't teach in a course. And if I did teach it, the course would be titled Pain and Suffering 101. How to sacrifice every weekend and never have a life and be completely broke for years in pursuit of your dreams. And to be fair, that course would probably sell pretty well. But in reality, you just have to go through the pain and suffering. In reality, that really should be a book. I think a book is like a better vehicle for it. It's really cheap, and that's how you really teach. Books were the original courses, before, the internet made selling a $150 thing more, doable. But I'm eating these cookies right now. I'm so hungry. Catalina Crunch. They're like keto. I don't know. They look healthier than regular cookies. Who knows? And so then the question becomes, how do you find your art? If you don't know what your art is. Because at mine, when I look at these worlds, there is Disney, Jocko Willink, Steve Jobs. There is a core truth to all of them. It starts with art, and then they build these empires off of it. Like Steve Jobs, I don't know what it would be. I think it would be some combination of creation and simplicity, right? That's the core of Apple's products, empowering creators and rebels, and through the simplest form factor possible. So my world, I really want it to be the world of obsession. And at the core of it is just me writing about obsession, which is what I've done since day one. And I never, ever had to force myself to do, right? Because I never had to sit down and make myself write about obsession. I just, every day when I have a good thought, I've written it down and published it for years. And now those thoughts are refined. Now those thoughts are better when I send them out. And so finding that takes a lot of patience, I think. And often it's the thing you were doing when you were a kid. It's often the thing that when I was a kid, I was always good at reading and writing, and there was a few summers where I just would sit in my room and read books, like dozens of books. I wouldn't call myself a reader as a kid, but I went through phases of obsessive reading with authors. And you look at, I contribute a lot of my ability to write to those summers, I really do. So the art is something that can never be forced. It has to be something so authentic that you cannot control it. If you really have no idea, it's probably because there's some blockage that's preventing you from doing it. That could be financial, that could be relationships, that could be anything. The relationship thing is real. You need people who see the best version of yourself, not the current version of yourself. Damn, that was a bar on relationships, and I usually don't talk about relationships. That's the thing. I always get asked about relationship advice around obsession. I always say the same thing. I have no advice because I haven't figured it out yet. All you can do is look at examples. There are people who have had great relationships, and to be fair, I should study them more. I know David Senra loves Ed Thorpe, who managed to, reach extreme success and still take care of his kids and family. And look, I want to figure that stuff out, and I will, because it's definitely been one of the hardest parts of my last few years, and caused me the most pain and agony out of everything. Is how do I operate as my truest self while in a relationship with somebody? I don't think I figured it out yet, and I hope I can. I think I will. I think a lot about the Whiplash scene, the breakup scene from Whiplash, which if you haven't seen Whiplash, go and watch it. It is basically the movie on obsession and what I talk about when I talk about obsession. There are some other factors with a mentor-mentee, but it is still the obsession movie. You have this young drummer who wants to be the best drummer of all time, right? The next Charlie Parker. And I think Charlie Parker was real. I don't think he was made up in that movie. Anyway, and there's a scene early on in the movie where he breaks up with his girl that he's seeing, because he basically says to her, look, all I want to do is drum. When I'm with you, I'm going to be thinking about drumming. When I'm alone, when I'm with you, I'm going to be thinking about drumming. And then I'm going to start resenting you because you're taking me away from drumming when all I really want to be doing is drumming. And he breaks up with her. And I was watching a Lex Friedman podcast. I forget who he was talking to, where they were talking about the scene. And the guy says something really smart. He's like, that was just the wrong girl. The right girl, he would never have considered that, because the right girl would be so obvious that she is fuel to the obsession, gasoline to the fire of obsession, versus the wrong girl, it feels like putting out the obsession, dousing water on this fire. And so that's how I would recommend thinking about it, from my limited experience with relationships and obsession. Like I said, I'm 27. I'm figuring this stuff out. I'm not going to speak like I know it all. My goal, I realized I really like sit-down videos like this. I need to figure out a way to wrap the videos more so like this, because I think people like them better versus the running stuff where I'm kind of out there chopping, talking. I think maybe every video should just be sit down, and then I bring in footage throughout the day. I think that's probably the most interesting way to do it. I don't know, I'm figuring it out. I want to go a lot harder on YouTube though, versus just pumping out them, because that's what I kind of feel like I'm doing now. They're not very good. I'm proud enough of them to post them, but I'm not proud enough of them to go share them wildly. Like, I'll only share a video on Instagram right now if it's really good. The other ones I'll just kind of let sit on YouTube, or I'll share on Twitter quickly. And so it's like, I don't know. I want to be really proud of these. I want them all to feel like a piece of art. And I'll get there. But it will take obsession. I'm working now, talking to videographers. I want to start, I think, at least documenting those two. I do basically 2 really hard runs a week that I can't really record on my own. And I want to get someone to help me film those. And I'm thinking, the challenge is figure out how to bring in the writing and the running into one video format that is enticing to a lot of people. Not just the people who follow me, not just the people who know about the Dark Place and the artist, athlete, entrepreneur stuff, but like people who just click on the thumbnail for the first time. Because that's the only way I'll grow on YouTube, because there's no audience. There's no audience transfer. Even though I have 1.5 million followers on Instagram, I'm getting, if I post it there and on Twitter and, post it, I'm going to get 1,000 views basically. And it's like, the video has to be good. The video has to be good. People have to watch the video. So I don't know. I'm open to feedback. If you have feedback on the videos, DM me, leave a comment below. I think there's a lot I can do for the, here's the challenge, right? Someone was telling me like, you should just talk about people who are obsessed, right? Talk about obsessed people. That's what's interesting in the world of obsession. And I could do that, but there are better people doing that, right? Like Founders Podcast is basically a podcast about obsession. Like he talks about artists, athletes, and entrepreneurs. He does 100%. And yeah, most of them are founders. They all are founders of something, but I'm not going to go compete with him. It's not my obsession. I'm not sitting here reading biographies all day. Why would I go do that? Right? It's like, am I interested in that stuff? Have I read biographies like that? Yeah, but it is not my thing. That is what people do. They think the obvious thing is what they should do, and it's not. It's never, right? The obvious thing is to go start a podcast about the obsessed and interview obsessed people and document Arnold. But what's the unobvious thing? What is the unobvious path, and what excites me the most? And what excites me the most is me being a model of obsession, right? It's like me personally showing the journey, because that's what I think matters. I'm interested in that. I'm interested in creating these founder-led companies, right? You could think Nick Bare, BPN, or like Alpha Elite, Christian Guzman. Like you start it with the founder and eventually it escapes them and becomes bigger. But that's the game I want to play. And there's no right or wrong. I think it's probably wrong for most people. There's very little work-life balance, but that's the point. It's like I said, there's no work-life balance. It just becomes art. It just becomes living in a state of flow and creation. And that is how I felt the last 3-4 weeks. If you haven't noticed, like I can't stop, because everything just feels like an art project in school, having fun with pencils and crayons. Those pencils and crayons now are just words on Instagram and videos and miles ran. That's what I feel. It has to be different for everyone, the goal with content, but that's mine for now. Try to look at your life and see artist, athlete, entrepreneur. Which pillars are you sure about? And look, these can change. And I would bet you, maybe you have all 3, but I'd bet you if you don't, look towards the art first. Artist, athlete, entrepreneur, in that order. See what inclinations you have. Try to look back to when you were a kid. What mediums did you love? If you loved reading, maybe you're a writer and you've just never written a word. And all you need is to commit to writing words every single day and see what happens. Maybe you love movies and you just never made a video. And you need to commit to making a video every day like I'm doing and see what happens. Commitment breeds obsession in a way that you cannot understand until you have an extreme constraint. That was a handful of words. Commitment breeds obsession in a way that you can't understand without an extreme constraint. You need an extreme constraint to allow your obsession to become alive. And so it's almost like just pick a medium you love and that excites you and fucking commit to some goal. I think a year of daily is great, but in reality, it should just be daily and go until you can't stop. And go until you should not want to ever stop. If you want to stop, that means it's not your obsession, right? I never want to stop writing online. I never will. I never will stop sharing my thoughts. I fucking love it. A friend texted me yesterday. He's like, oh, the head coach of Cleveland baseball, MLB, is sharing your quotes in the group chat. I'm like, what? What the fuck is that? And so, I don't know. He's doing that because I followed my obsession. I did the thing I can't not do. So go find that thing. Get after it. Stay obsessed.